Daf Yomi, Tractate Bava Batra, page 12a, top of the page, with the words Bais Sasum, Yesh Lo Arba Amos, etc. A house that has a sealed entrance still has the 4 cubits adjoining that entrance because the entrance can be reopened. If one broke its doorposts and sealed the entrance is completely negated, and it does not have the 4 cubits adjoining it. There is a similar distinction with regard to the halachot of ritual impurity. There is a halacha that a house in which there is a corpse transmits ritual impurity only through its doorways. The Batra continues, a grave whose entrance is sealed does not render all its surroundings ritually impure. The ritual impurity extends only to the area opposite the entrance. But if one broke its doorposts and sealed it, it is no longer considered an entrance, and the grave renders all its surroundings ritually impure. Because impurity has no egress, bursts from all sides. Because impurity that has no egress bursts from all sides. Similarly, a house in which there is a corpse that has a sealed entrance does not render all its surroundings ritually impure. But if one broke its doorposts, it is no longer considered an entrance, and the corpse renders all of its surroundings ritually impure. Rabbi Bar Chana says that Rabbi Yochanan says, with regard to alleyways that are open to another city, and through which one would ordinarily travel to reach that other city, if the residents of the city in which the alleyways were located wished to block them off, the residents of the city into which the alleyways can prevent them, to which the alleyways open, can prevent them from doing so because they have a right to reach their city via those routes. The Gemara explains it is not necessary to state that they can prevent them from blocking the alleyways when there is no alternative route to reach their own, but they can prevent them from blocking the alleyways even when there is an alternative route. This is due to the reasoning that Rav Yehuda says that Rav says, one is prohibited from ruining a path that the public has established as a public thoroughfare. In other words, steps may not be taken to prevent people from using it. This is in accordance with the statement of Rav Gidl. As Rav Gidl says, if the public has chosen a route for itself and they walk on it, what they have chosen is chosen, and it cannot be taken away from them. Rav Anan says, that Shmuel says, with regard to alleyways that open onto a public thoroughfare, if the residents of the alleyways wish to put up doors at the entrance to their alleyways, the people who use the public thoroughfare can prevent them from doing so. Rav Anan says that Shmuel says, with regard to alleyways that open onto a public thoroughfare, if the residents of the alleyways wished to put up doors at the entrance to their alleyways, the people who use the public thoroughfare can prevent them from doing so. Some sages understood from this that this statement applies specifically to the area within 4 cubits of the public thoroughfare, in accordance with the statement of Rabbi Zera. That Rabbi Zera says, that Rav Nachman says, as Rabbi Zera says, that Rav Nachman says, the 4 cubits in an alleyway that are adjacent to the public thoroughfare are considered like public thoroughfare itself. Rabbi Zera says that Rav Nachman says the 4 cubits in an alleyway that are adjacent to the public thoroughfare are considered like the public thoroughfare itself. Consequently, this area has the halakha of a public thoroughfare. But that is not so. There, the ruling of Rav Nachman was stated with regard to the issue of ritual impurity, with regard to which only the first 4 cubits of the alleyway are considered like the public thoroughfare. But here, with regard to doors set up at the entrance to the alleyway, sometimes the public thoroughfare becomes crowded with people and they enter far into the alleyway, even farther than 4 cubits. The Mishnah teaches, and the court does not divide a jointly owned field unless there is space in it to plant 9 kav of seed for this one, 9 kav of seed for that one. Rabbi Yehuda says the court does not divide a field unless there is space in it to plant 9 half kav of seed for this one and 9 half kav of seed for that one. The Gemara comments, and they do not disagree with regard to the fundamental halakha, as this sage ruled in accordance with the custom of his locale, and that sage ruled in accordance with the custom of his locale. In Rabbi Yehuda's locale, even a smaller parcel of land was considered a viable field. The Gemara asks, the Mishnah was taught in Eretz Yisrael. What practice should be followed in Babylonia? Rabbi Yosef said, in Babylonia, a parcel of land, the size of which is the area of a day's plowing, is considered a field. If each of the parties will receive less than that, Rav Yosef said, in Babylonia, a parcel of land, the size of which is the area of a day's plowing, is considered a field. If each of the parties will receive less than that, the field should not be divided. Be Radu Yoma, the area of a day's plowing. Let's see here. Be Radu Yoma, 297. In ordinal at 72. Apash 1053. Be Radu Yoma. My Be Radu Yoma. I Yoma Zara. Tre Yoma Kerava Lohavi. Yoma Kerava. Yoma Zara Lohavi. The Gemara asks, what is meant by a parcel of land, the size of which is the area of a day's plowing? If it means a day's plowing in the planting season, in other words the winter, when it is easy to plow, since the earth has already been turned over at the end of the summer, the field will not require 2 full days of plowing in the plowing season. In other words, at the end of the summer, when it is more difficult to plow, since the earth is hard and dry, in that case, he will have to pay his summer plowman 2 days' wages for less than 2 days of work. And it means a day's plowing in the plowing season. The field will not require a full day of plowing in the planting season. In that case, he will have to pay his winter plowman a full day's wages for less than a full day of work. The Gemara answers, if you wish, say, it is referring to a day's plowing in the plowing season, and the field will still require a full day. I don't know why you can't just say an average. You can't average it out. You could average about how much in a summer and a winter, and you do somewhere in between, Why can't you do that? Anyway. The Gemara answers, if you wish, say, is referring to a day's plowing in the plowing season, and the field will still require a full day of plowing in the planting season, since he plows once before he sows the seeds, and then he repeats the plowing after the seeds are sown. And if you wish, say, instead, that it is referring to a day's plowing in the planting season, and the field will, in fact, require 2 full days of plowing in the plowing season if it is rocky ground on which plowing takes longer. In connection with this discussion, the Gemara clarifies the conditions under which a cistern from which its joint owners draw their water is divided. Rav Nachman said, it should be divided only if each party will receive the volume of water needed for a day's irrigation work. As for an orchard, Shmuel's father says, it should be divided only if each party will receive an area large enough to plant 3 kav, 1/3 of the measure required for a field. Tanya Nami Hachi. That opinion is also taught in Brayta with regard to one who says to another, I'm selling you part of a vineyard without specifying how much of the vineyard. Sumcha says he may not give him less than an area large enough to plant 3 kav. Rabbi Yossi said, these are nothing other than words of prophecy. Ein elo ela divrei neviut. In other words, I do not see the logic behind the statement, and it is as if based on prophecy and heavenly decree, as the seller did not mention any area, but rather spoke in the most general terms. Part of a vineyard. The Gemara asks, what is Ein elu ela divrei neviut 8:15. Part of the vineyard. They want to ask, what is the measure with regard to this matter in Babylonia? Rava bar Kisna said, 3 rows of 12 vines, which is the area a person can hoe in a single day. In connection with Rabbi Yossi's statement, that Sumchus's words are nothing but words of prophecy, the Gemara reports that Rabbi Avdimi from Haifa says, from the day that the temple was destroyed, prophecy was taken from the prophets and given to the sages. The Gemara expresses astonishment. Is that to say that a sage is not fit to be a prophet? Rabbi Avdimi seems to say that these are two distinct categories of people. The Gemara explains this is what Rabbi Avdimi is saying. Even though prophecy was taken from the prophets, it was not taken from the sages. Okay. A Maimar said, and a sage is greater than a prophet. As it is stated, and a prophet has a heart of wisdom. Psalms 90:12. In other words, he's wise. When comparisons are drawn, who is compared to whom? You must say that the lesser is compared to the greater. Here too prophecy is compared to wisdom, thus indicating that wisdom is greater than prophecy. Abaye said, know that this is so, that the sages still enjoy the prophetic gift. As a great man makes a statement with regard to a point of halakha, and the same statement is then cited in the name of a different great man in accordance with his statement, indicating that the sages make their own statements by way of prophecy. Rava disagreed and said, what is the difficulty with explaining this? Perhaps they were born under the same constellation, and since they are similar in their traits, they reach the same conclusions. Rather, Rava said, no, this is so, as a great man makes a statement, and the same statement is then cited in the name of the well-known Tana. We're on 12b now, just to continue the idea. Well-known Tana, Rabbi Akiva Bar Yosef, in accordance with his statement. It certainly cannot be maintained that the first sage is similar in his nature to the illustrious Rabbi Akiva, so he must have arrived at his statement through prophecy. Rav Ashi said, and what is the difficulty with explaining this? Perhaps they were born under the same constellation, and with regard to this issue, the first sage has the same understanding as Rabbi Akiva.